All right, middle of January, back in the shop, working on our favorite 5020, trying to make it run. All right, so Don's part of the shop crew tonight.
Just tell me what to do, guys. Let's do it. Here we go.
So yeah, my version of cool and your version of cool is two different things, aren't they? Single guy, mom with kids.
Let's do it.
I mean, it's gonna be cool when it's done. But...
When you're a middle-aged guy, this is pretty good on the excitement. This isn't too bad. We got
a lot of gaskets though. All of those are gonna go in?
Not all of them. A lot of them don't.
a lot of them. Yeah, it's kind of a
The other one we needed.
yes.
Front front.
Truth or tradition? We're gonna try and solve a myth. You ready?
Ooh, I like it. Yeah.
Yeah. All of our comments on this video has been actually like really good.
Really fun.
But
yeah.
I mean, the feedback's been great. I've had a lot. I've actually learned, there's some fun ones. I've learned a whole bunch, but we got to put to rest a myth. And the myth is all bus motors run in reverse. Now I'm going to say this bold and confident.
Okay.
But if it runs in reverse, I'm screwed. And we'll totally admit it. We'll totally admit it.
I just said you're pretty confident. Like, no, we're gonna show you. But I think there is still something in the back of your head that, like, there is part of me that's worried when we fire this thing up. Finally, it's gonna run in reverse. That fear is just a little bit there.
A little bit of rust, huh?
A little bit. It's not too bad considering it's in Minnesota.
Well, it was a bus. Maybe it was down south.
Maybe. Maybe it's down south, broke down, couldn't get home.
Ooh.
Hopefully not.
It is just a little bit. Yeah, there's no... I've just been fooled so much. And part of it is just our culture we live in. We have so much data. We have so much information around us all the time. And the other thing with the motor behind us, this motor was in everything. It was in tanks. It was in ships. It was in barges. It was in semis. It was in buses. It was in everything. Now this right here is a different 8V71 Detroit engine, and it's going to go into our 5020 here, we hope. One thing that started to pop up as soon as we started going after trying to find a new motor is what they call a reverse rotation engine. Now the reverse rotation engine typically was found in a bus, a GM bus, and it's because they flipped the motor on its side and the actual motor did run in a reverse rotation. So from what I can understand, it bolted right to the transmission and then you had direct drive to your rear tires.
So it was good for small buses.
All right, to recap on this project a little bit, we bought it on an auction last summer. Back in November when I turned 40, we pushed it in the shop. Trying to get it running. We had low expectations. We found out the cylinders were full of rust, which...
So when you bought it, you didn't know if the motor was good or not?
Nope.
Okay.
And we went into the project it was a gamble. If it ran, bonus. If it didn't ran,
you always assume the worst now.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the one thing this industry has taught me. Like,
low expectations.
and never believe a farmer or an auctioneer.
Yeah,
Ever.
that's right.
In this case, the auctioneers were awesome. I do want to defend them. They were great. I've just had some other scenarios where you might have got lied to. All right.
So, but turns out it actually wasn't good.
Yep. No, wasn't good. So we pulled the heads. We knew immediately, okay, we were balancing it out. Do we rebuild the existing motor or do we just try to find one that was already out there? What we were looking for was a Detroit 318 model or their 8V71 model. That's what was in the tractor and we wanted to keep it true to that. So we just wanted to find another 8V71 Detroit.
And how popular is this motor?
Hit and miss. Very popular 50 years ago. Very popular 50 years ago. Today's world, they're not so much, but they still are out there. The downside is they either cost a whole lot of money or they cost very little money, but you're wondering how good that little money, like what that actually gets you. The motor behind us we found later in the week. We ripped this down on Tuesday. Friday, we're going to check this motor out. And right in the description, we knew it was out of a bus, but it said direct rotation, which meant the motor should be spinning the proper direction and not a reverse rotation that is actually in the bus itself, or that could be found in certain buses.
Two things: you learn not to trust listings anymore, right? And also, everyone is saying every bus motor is a reverse.
Okay, so down the road, there's actually this shop called Interstate Power Systems. They're a Detroit dealer, and they were super helpful. Actually, David, our Uncle David, rolled in the shop one day with a book. And it is weird. Like, I'm used to looking at tech manuals, but David came in with this book that said, like, It was something on the lines of like just a general repair, but in there was a whole chapter on Detroit diesels and governors, and we've been looking at that. And that's when I knew we were going in the right direction. I also looked on a whole bunch of websites, and in the book it shows kind of the difference between the reverse rotation and the direct rotation motors. This gear here in this picture shows the cam location, the gear location on the cam for direct drive or reverse rotation. And that's when I knew the R2 motors had the same cam gear located in the same spot, and that's where I knew we were going down the right track. There's also a way of spinning the blower over, and this was something that I learned. This is where Interstate was super helpful. I always thought the propeller spun this direction and the airflow went straight down the motor. It's actually, they spin the opposite direction and the lobe goes up against the crankcase, and actually that's how it seals to create like pressure, or to create pressure.
Pulling air away from it?
Yeah, well, it's just opposite of what you had thought.
I don't know what I would have thought, so good.
Go to town. You can be a blower puller too.
Oh, and they don't make these things light either.
Nope.
I'm just gonna set it in here for now.
Because I think a lot of times people throw these warnings out, like just they're being helpful. They're like, hey, sometimes though, when you're doing these projects, and it doesn't matter if it's trying to put a bus motor in a tractor, or if that's still funny, right? Trying to put the bus motor in the tractor, or if it's trying to, tune up a 350 Chevy. Sometimes people's horror stories you can learn a lot from. Sometimes you also got to try and get that crap back out of your head, because it'll just sour the whole situation. I heard a guy talking about, well, that's a good story, but that's their story. That's not going to be my story. And, I try
Profound. That's deep. I mean, you could apply that to so many things.
I know. 20 years later, that's what rings in my head. Yep. There's just a lot of truth to it, like, that's a good story. That's their story.
Yep.
My story's not going to be like that,
I'm going to get the right engine no matter what I do.
Yeah, or I'm just going to accept the fact that I was lied to one more time. We get the motor out of the frame rails, and what's funny? My whole thought process was like, let's make it run. Let's make it make noise.
Yeah.
See what's going to... Dad had a different idea.
You wanted to make it pretty.
Dad just kept grabbing parts. Yeah, but I got to... There's two people who have done the absolute nitty-gritty day in and day out on this project. It is Dad and Adam. Ben's a close third. I mean, Ben's been doing his fair share too. But like, Dad grabs the frame rails with a skid loader. Him and Corbin start scrubbing it down or sanding it down and cleaning it up. Yeah. And I walk in one day and I'm like, holy crap, it's green. But then I'm like, that looks really good.
You had to do it now. So that wasn't even on your radar at all?
No. My thought was like, we'll do that later. Let's get it running. But then I see these green frame rails and I'm like, okay, now we got to paint the motor. The main reason I'm happy is we're at a point where we're going to start painting this engine. Wow, it took a lot of hours to get here, didn't it?
Yeah. We've been at it for a while.
Oh.
But it should show in our progress later on here.
Yeah, the cool thing from here on out is once we get this painted, the goal is we still got the frame rails kind of sitting right over here. The goal tomorrow is we can throw frame rails back on the ground, throw the tires on, and then get the engine in the frame rails. And that's kind of huge because it's going to be a lot easier to work on it. There's a few things we got to do, not a whole lot, but once we get it back in the frame rails, it is going to be a lot easier to manage. Right now it's swaying, and it was funny because multiple times today, like you'd swing it one way, I'd swing it the other way. You'd be working and all of a sudden like it just naturally just swing out of the way. And so kind of cool, but tonight just actually getting paint and primer on it, kind of neat. Corbin was down here earlier today helping, and he's filthy right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aren't you glad you never know how many hours it's going to take to get to that point?
Yeah, because we probably wouldn't have done it. No, I would have been like, let's do it in February, guys. And that's probably what we should have done, but I don't know. It's kind of neat that it's all moving forward.
But it's also one of those jobs you just don't count the hours.
No.
Pretend it never happened.
No. Have you seen Dad in a bad mood at all in the last 2 weeks?
Nope.
No.
Yep. We
rolled it in on November, 24th, 5th, something like that. And you have not seen Dad at all once in a bad mood. He was actually, him and Ben, man, we just kept bringing parts over to the welding bench, and him and Ben were just like sanding them down and wire wheeling them and cleaning them up for getting ready for paint. And so, yeah, trade off. Happy father.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what to say after that. We're all choking from the fumes. It's finally warming up. It is exactly 5 degrees outside right now. Yeah, like I said, it's warming up. Earlier in the week was really kind of rough. It was pretty dang cold. Today we're supposed to get up like something in like the 20s, which when you're used to 0 or 20 degree temperature swing is a heat wave. Heck yeah. Well, we've been making really good progress on our John Deere 5020. The goal here today is to actually get the engine painted green and just keep moving forward on that. And it hasn't been the worst project in the world, but it has been a few challenges trying to get certain seals and different things like that. But we're at a point where we think we got all the seals and everything ordered, and we're just kind of cleaning everything up and trying to get it painted, because what we'd like to try and do is end the day with the frame rails back on the ground with tires on them and the engine in the frame. If it doesn't happen, it won't be too big of a surprise, but sometimes I think I set too big of goals, but I think we also need too big of goals. You can kind of see the morale kind of drop, and I've been in these projects before. Sometimes you can kind of see the morale drop down in these projects and the shop attitude just go down. Getting it painted kind of reignited the spark with everybody. So hopefully today that spark continues. There's only like 2 days I walked in the shop, and it was just that overwhelming feeling of just like, we got parts here, we got parts there, we got parts over here, we got over here.
Do you know what we call that in our decluttering world?
What's that? Enlighten me.
We call it the messy middle. It's where you got everything pulled out, and you're like, what did I just do? Like,
that is actually
the worst. And you just see everything everywhere, and you're like, it's never going to come back together. Like, what did I do?
Holy crap. That is actually the best definition of it. Because, so here I am in that time frame, and I'm just like, I knew I had to like just keep pushing through. I mean, I've been here before on other projects. There's just that day you're like, okay, we got to move. What's next? Okay, Dad's cleaning this up. We got to do this. We knew we had to do a couple things to the block. I mean, but I knew I had to be the cheerleader. Come on, guys, we can do this. Yes, I've been here before. I know it looks horrible. It's the messy middle. It's horrible, but we can push through and overcome this.
We can do hard things.
I actually knew, I need to get this motor green, because there's something magical that happens.
Mental.
When you're looking at this crappy, rusty motor covered in gunk, and you're like, oh man, but then when you see it green, even here where you see like the valve covers aren't all the way painted and this, but you just see that fresh green paint, it makes everything better. So messy middle, wow, that is true. That is the time frame where you're like, I gotta power through this. This is just gonna suck. This is just low down and dirty and just gonna take elbow grease. And we just gotta like spend all the time and just get through this 1, 2, maybe 3 day run. Nice, messy middle. So what's after the messy middle?
For us, then it's the downhill, like things get easier and really start coming together quick, because it actually, not fast, but it really did start coming together after that.
Okay, so I'm at a facility, and they're loading me right now, and heck yeah, like Adam and Andre are back at the shop, and they just texted me, hey, we got a question call. It looks like our rear main's a little tight.
For a project like
For
this.
like a refurbished project like this, it actually has been coming together like really, really well. Well, we had good intentions. We were at the parts place asking a lot of in-depth questions about seals and wear rings, and did you think a rear main for this motor was going to be that hard to find?
No.
Holy crap. We knew there was something that was going to be a challenge. We just didn't think a rear oil seal. That's usually very common. Like that's one thing that gets replaced a bunch. And well, back to the farm. We'll work on other things and keep it moving that way. And I would agree with you. Yeah, it's just there's that day when you walk in and you're like,
or at
oh
least,
crap.
At least you see the end goal now when you're working on it, so you're more motivated and energized to like cross the finish line, because it feels possible now.
As soon as you seen the shiny green paint, it was just like, okay, now I see what we're doing. And I think everybody else, it's very visual for a lot of guys. Hey, we can see this, we're gonna make the rest of this look like that. Okay, let's go. But oh man, the other thing I don't want to know how many individual parts. That was the thing, we had everything tore down. I'm looking at the fuel tank straps right there. It's like, oh my God, the amount of individual parts we painted. So a lot of times, what a lot of people would do is they'd wait, they'd get it all together, and they'd paint it all at once when it's already assembled. In this case, we just had everything ripped apart, and it allowed us to really scrub and sand and clean. Because any old diesel motor.
Especially a project like this tractor, this is not a daily use. This is a special tractor, right?
Yeah,
like
that's why.
So it was worth going to all the extra efforts.
And it looks really good now too.
Really good,
yeah. No, you're so right. It was worth it all. Like worth all the time, all the labor to get to this point. And like I said, I'm hoping when it's all said and done, when we sit here a week from now,
that the motor spins the right way.
After we hit the starter. Yes. Wow. Never seen that little trick before.
Hey, tighten them against each other and then they lock up.
Wow.
Oops.
Oops. Where'd it go? Just hit the ground. Huh?
We're not getting that one back.
Is it down there?
Yeah, we don't know.
I don't even know how many hours we have in.
I would say you should go back
Like-
and estimate, because with all the people that have been working on it and how far you guys went, it's a lot of hours. So far.
Yeah, that was kind of the joke. Now, luckily, we're able to split this between 2 years. 24 and 25. So we're in the second week of January, and that's been the joke. I'm glad some of this was on 24, so I don't got to like try and like if you look at your operating budget.
That might be blowing your budget.
Yeah.
Right? You start putting in the hours.
Oh.
But it's okay.
Yeah, luckily Dad's hours don't count. He
No.
he owns half of it. But
Corbin is donating his as well.
Oh.
So.
in the frame. This goal seemed very far fetched at about 10 o'clock this morning, didn't it?
Yeah, a little bit.
The last couple days, I remember when I walked in the shop, I had the one goal of, hey, we're going to get it at least in primer, or we'd like to get the engine painted. We had some of the parts painted green already, but we had the engine and primer. Last night it was like, hey, let's finish doing this, and if we get the timing cover on, well, we might have the wrong rear main, but we have the timing cover on. Oh, that seal was kind of threw us for a loop. One of the biggest challenges for this project was trying to find an actual gasket kit. Okay, so Andre right there has what we're hoping is the right gasket kit, because there wasn't a lot of them available. Like there was none of them available, and we still think we have the Felpro. What we ordered, hopefully, was the Felpro. Good or bad?
It says 8V71.
Oh,
right
thank
there.
you. Now, like I said, this motor was in semis, it was in boats, it was in everything. And the gasket kit, usually these for any other traditional motor, you can find from OEM, from Detroit, or you can go aftermarket. We were striking out horribly. I think COVID, when I was talking with the guys at Interstate there, one thing they said is, hey, we're seeing some of this stuff. Probably it went out of production around the COVID timeframe, and then they'll probably make it again, but it's possible it's just down on the list of gaskets to be made. Okay. But we called about 10 different shops, parts places, nobody had one. Because I was able to find the actual Felpro number, but it was out of inventory with all these different shops. Then I found just a random website. It was like finditparts.com, and then, yeah, right? Like,
Because what would you have done if you couldn't find a gasket kit? Because was your plan to replace all the gaskets on it?
What's nice with a universal kit is they usually come with everything, and then because it's bulk, it's kind of like just Walmart shopping. You're gonna get the best bang for the buck as far as price. Detroit said they could build the gasket kit for us, but it was gonna be about 6 weeks. Yeah, and again, they needed a VIN, and we didn't have a VIN for the bus, and so it was just like crap. There was other sites where you could hodgepodge it together, just getting individual gaskets. When we did that, we were up around $500. But luckily, findit.com, we were able to find one, $280, $320 after shipping. And then the night it showed up, I'm like, we're gonna get this, like we gotta open this up. Andre grabs it, starts going through it, and we're recognizing all of the gaskets we need. That was the night you popped in the shop and we're like, putting you to work.
I do love a good gasket kit, you
Yeah.
know, so.
We all do. We all do. Yeah. Like I said, your version of fun, my version of fun.
You guys were having way more excitement, than I was.
Yep. All right, so then after that, the only other gasket that was a little bit of a drama was the rear main. Now, I could find things on the internet, so the rear main was not in the gasket kit. The rear main was not in the gasket kit from Felpro. And so we started looking around. I was able to find some numbers on the internet, were no longer available. Started looking around some more, ordered one in, didn't fit, was the wrong one. And the only way you can actually find that out is by putting this timing cover on. So Adam and Andre were putting it on one night, and then the morale went in the shop, or the morale in the shop went very low when we figured out it was the wrong one because you could tell the gap was too tight.
Okay.
So you do some more research on the internet, and I don't know why. I don't know if have you ever been in a project and you're so in depth in the project you actually might have missed one of the little things.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Good. So this is gonna make me feel normal. The one thing we didn't do, we didn't pound out the old gasket. So go to a town, talk to a couple of people. Hey, this gasket that we think we need, or the seal we think we need is no longer available. Get back to the shop, feel depressed, pound out the old one, because why didn't we do that from the get-go? Yeah. Here it is, there's a number on it, and call back to the local dealer, and yep, we got a factory order or factory direct, but you'll be here Friday. Yes.
Nice.
Oh, wow, that went better than we thought. We just got to bang out that seal.
this is going a little too smoothly, like so far.
No, well, okay, this is like right in the middle.
Okay, you're
like
close to that
this
line.
is a solid 5. If 10's worst case scenario, 1's just like, it's just perfect.
Yeah.
I say this is a good 5.
Okay, so that's good. That's a good place to be.
Yeah.
You don't want it to go too smoothly.
No. Is it not funny to see Cohen on timeout? Like, we had to do
Kona.
something. Kona started going nuts, and we had to do something. For you that have animals, you'll understand this. Kona was going crazy. She got all wound up, so then we had to put her on timeout, and we actually had to put the farm dog on a chain because if we tried just to kick her out of shop, she'll be scratching the doors and that kind of stuff. So she finally mellowed out, and now she's just giving us those big old puppy dog eyes that, you don't love me. She's like, do you know what I do for this farm?
Doesn't
Oh,
work on
crap.
me. I'm a mom. Doesn't work.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So at this point, fuel lines, do you trust the old ones, or are you just like, we gotta replace those?
We're gonna replace them. There was a chance we could reuse them, but more than likely, it just,
Because how long had this guy been sitting? We don't know.
yeah, and you worry about them rusting from the inside out. And even though we know they're a twist lock, we don't really know what brand they are, if they're an Arrowquip or if they're an Eaton or Parker. And so went to a couple different shops, ended up having to just Cat of all places. Adam went and ran up to Cat yesterday, just got them. And so yeah, we're making the fuel lines here today. And the goal, hopefully the next time we sit down right here, maybe you can hit a starter button. We'll see.
Wow, you're actually gonna say that.
Yeah. I think
All
it's
right,
fun if you
not
did.
jinxing it or anything. That's awesome. I mean, it really has been going along pretty smoothly.
Yeah, because actually Dad yesterday went for a 4-hour drive for a fuel tank, and it was so funny. I was lining it up earlier in the week, and then we had snow, and then anytime it snows, I need to stay around here just to make sure, trucks can get where they need to go, etc. And so Dad calls me, and he's like, well, I could go tomorrow. I'm like, deal, I'll get it set up. So Dad was down in Iowa getting a better fuel tank than what we had. The one we had was pretty full of rust. And we thought about trying to line it, clean it up, line it. And luckily, so far, we're under budget. I kind of had about a $5,000 parts budget in mind. And we've been doing really good. The main thing was the clutch. The clutch I thought was going to be around somewhere between like $1,200 and $2,500. And that came in at just under $900. And so I knew we had a little bit of wiggle room in the budget. So that's why it's like, yep, new fuel lines. And then also let's just go get a different fuel tank. And so, so far, I'm actually pretty amazed. Like, yeah, spreadsheet wise, we're under budget, which is, doesn't happen too often. So that's why if it runs in reverse. Then we're going to be pulling cams and oil pump out of the other motor. No, you're so right. It was worth it all. Like worth all the time, all the labor to get to this point. And like I said, I'm hoping when it's all said and done, when we sit here a week from now,
the motor spins the right way.
the last thing that we were like this last week we were trying to figure out is we still don't quite totally understand how the governor works. It's supposed to be a dual system or dual process, dual something governor.
What's a governor?
Governor is actually like what you use. Like you take the throttle level to push forward, and that moves some stuff with some other stuff, and then it puts more fuel in the cylinders, and it revs up louder or revs up faster.
Yeah.
So it's part of the throttle assembly.
Yeah.
And we don't quite know how it works, but we think we have a theory on it.
Okay.
But
Is Uncle David familiar?
yeah, he was down here earlier in the week, and we were
Okay.
talking about
Pick
some of
his
this.
brain a little bit, yeah.
He doesn't know either.
Oh, good.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you all know? Let us know.
Those are kind of our last two. Everything else I feel pretty confident on. Those are the things I could see us firing it and then going, oh, we got to figure that out.
Yeah.